What is going on, guys? My name is Hussein, and I want to discuss this article a little bit, and which is titled "Stop Using React." Uh, I have my opinions, which I'm gonna leave them to the end of the video about React in general. But what I want to discuss here is this article raises very good points. However, I think the author have missed a great opportunity to kind of touch upon the React community and inform them instead of having writing this article in a way that kind of represents almost like a way to attack, which I disagree with absolutely. Right? So the author raises great points, 5 points, I think. I don't agree with all of them, obviously. And then you can go ahead. I'm going to reference the article below. And I want you, whether you like React or you don't like React, I want you to go there with an open mind, just like I did, basically. I go there and then read, genuinely read, and see if these points are valid, right? And that's my goal. I think that the author have failed in bridging the gap to deliver this idea in a very friendly way, let's say. Right, the comment section is basically a massacre. You can go and read that. It's just a carnage. uh, I feel like people are talking on top of each other, and there is no value of things. But what I want to make in this video and hopefully achieve is to deliver the author's original point and some of the comments that I read in the comment section in in a very productive, let's say, way, so we can get value of this article, get the value that is deserved, and try to remedy some of them, because these are good points. Some of them are really good points, and some of them that are made in the comment section from the opposite party where they support React also make great points. And React is here to stay, obviously. As whether you call it a framework or a library, I still don't know what people refer to. And some people say, no, it's not a framework, it's a library, Hussein, it's a library, don't say it's a framework. Yeah, okay, it's a library. But yeah, whether you use it there, if you absolutely enjoy it, and it is simplify your life, and that applies to other frameworks and other libraries as well, by all means use it. My opinion about the thing is you gotta know how it works. And some people don't agree with this, but I'm gonna expand on this opinion in the end of this video, guys. So how about we jump into it? So the author ender here, the first point that uh, he or they bring here is it's low. I think a little bit it's a generalization, right? Because yeah, he bring you the receipts here with which is another great article. That's another thing I loved. He's referencing other articles with more details of measurement of sites with React, measurement side of the Angular, Vue, jQuery, and all that stuff, right? However, if you understand the first principle of everything, if you know how React works, if you know Angular, how Vue, how jQuery works, right? Then you're formidable. Basically, you understand things, so you're gonna use it, and you're gonna incur the cost of using it because you know that you cannot escape the value add of using these frameworks or libraries. uh, Kind of justifies the cost, right? That being said, this is good, right? You say, okay, we know now, oh, sites where they act are slower than normal sites. That's not always the case, right? It depends on the application author, which is the front end developer in this case. How did they author the app really matter, right? So having saying React is slow in general. Maybe that's true, but I might be able to build a React app that's generally faster than a normal classic HTML5 app with vanilla JavaScript if I know what I was doing exactly. And if my use case. So it really depends on the use case, it really depends on that, but I think that's kind of a valid case in general for if you don't know what you're doing. If you just slammed React to build an application that doesn't scale with React, right? Someone used a great analogy here. Let's see. Okay, there you go. You cannot hammer a nail using a sword. This does not mean that a sword is useless. I love this a lot. I love this. Gorav, thank you so much. This is really nice. I love this analogy. Yeah, React is the sword. But if you want to hammer a nail, don't use the sword, right? Doesn't mean sword is badass, right? You can use it to do other stuff. Does that make sense, guys? Again, I'm gonna tell you just a full disclaimer. I don't use React. I'm a backend developer. I live most of my life with databases, proxies, reverse proxies, backend life, all life, all day long, right? For 15, 16 years now. When I build front-end app, which I did, I used. I should have started with that. I used vanilla JavaScript and HTML. That was like early 2000s. Then I used a framework or library or whatever you want to call it called Dojo. I don't know if many were even born when Dojo was there. Dojo, and then I used jQuery, and I regretted all of these decisions in my career using Dojo and jQuery, because these libraries started doing things that I did not anticipate, and my performance suffered as a result, right? And I thought I'm gonna leave my opinion to the end, but it looks like I'm mixing and matching here things like. But yeah, that's my opinion. So that's if I want to build a front-end app, I use. If there is no reason for me to use a library, I will not use a library. If I can make a call with built-in first principle fundamental function that exists in every browser called fetch or XHR, why would I import a library that does that thing, like Axiom? Yeah, you might love Axiom, but I don't need to use it. Why? Why would I import a third library to do the same thing that I have built in? I'd rather use the built-in stuff as much as possible. That's just me. Obviously, feel free to disagree or agree. Sometimes I find myself that I absolutely need a library. Building charts, building pie charts. I have no time to draw graph and draw angles and stuff like that from scratch. For that task, I would import a library that does only that thing. I'm not going to import a library for something that I can do with native tools. Does that make sense, guys? It's expensive. The second point. It's expensive. Because of having it as a single application page, SPA, single page application, which is something I recently learned about in the web, that people are doing this thing, which is kind of neat, right? Using the history API, right, to build a single page API, right? It's a single page application where you download everything on the client side, and just now everything is in the client. You don't need to go back to the server. So the client, as they go, they become stronger and stronger as terminal devices become stronger. The single page application become really, really powerful. So yeah, if you have a badass iPhone 11 Pro, why not run single page app? It is gonna, and you have a great bandwidth, then you have a great app experience. You don't have to go back, call the server. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. It is sometimes expensive to download that huge chunk of JavaScript and everything that you need in the client side and have everything in the client side. If you can afford it, then why not? Yeah, it's expensive, but if I can support it, if my devices, if my apps are designed to be for certain markets, certain slice, if it's an internal app, I would go with that choice. However, the author is right. You gotta know, as a front-end engineer, you better know that it is expensive. You are not allowed to bypass this. And here's the thing. That's why I flip parties. Always I try to be empathetic for both parties. Like, if you're gonna use React, know the cost of React. Know the cost of everything you use, guys. I always say that. First principle fundamentals. What is this thing doing? Does that mean yet if you want to drive a car, you have to know how the car works? Absolutely not. But if you're a mechanic and you're driving a car, you better know how the car works, right? I'm not a mechanic, so I don't need to know that stuff. But if I'm from an engineer, take pride of your work and know every single thing that your libraries are doing. Because guess what? If your app broke, nobody's going to blame React. They're going to blame you. You authored the tool. You authored the page, right? You better know what's going on. So that's my argument with this. Yeah, it is expensive. But if you came in and say, Hussein, I love React. I know it's expensive in this case. However, I am willing to incur the cost of that because the benefit outweighs that little cost. And my apps are written for latest generation phones anyway, and it will be consumed by this market only. Then I'm going to say, kudos, dude. That is awesome. The third point, if you're building if you only know React, for example, and you don't know basic JavaScript and HTML, and you don't know any of that stuff, and you just know React because it's easy, for example, and you built an app that just built a generic website, and this website is expected to be consumed by everybody, even feature phone, then I am with the author on this one. You better think about this. Is your app gonna be consumed by 2G connection or even 3G or 2G or edge wireless connection on Nokia or cheap feature phone? If yes, can you rebuild it using just simple things that we know? JavaScript and HTML. And if I can minimize the cost of things, back to how costly is this thing, guys, right? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to kind of navigate this article so that it's on the positive side and trying to extract the value of this article so that both parties can benefit. Whether you use React today and just be aware of these things, or just you don't use React and you might consider it to simplify your workflows in general, right? So it's inaccessible, and I have to agree with this one. Yeah, if you use React, and by the way, I didn't know that, right? It's like, yeah, if you use React, your app will not be accessible by older apps. And guys, if you use React and if you think any of these statements that I said in this video are incorrect, please correct me in the comment section below. I'd love to learn more, because again, I have never used React. I read the docs. I know how it works. I did not use it. So you might know way more than I do, and I have missed some of that stuff in general. Okay? React goes against what the web was made for. So the web, guys, what is the web, right? It's a web of resources, right? You consume a page. That's how the HTTP protocol was built. It was built so that you make a request and you receive a response. You make another request, you make a response. It's a request response system that is built on resources. And then we have put the websites, and then websites have resources such as CSS file, JavaScript, and all that stuff. And we realized we made a mistake as the web grew with the number of resources. We improve the HTTP protocol to HTTP2 so that we can streamline and multiplex resources across a single TCP connection so that we can achieve more and more performance. However, what this is doing, React is not really following that path, if you think about it. And I had to agree with this, right? It's not natural with the flow of the internet. What you're doing here is you don't download information when you absolutely need it. You download it all when you start the app. And then, so yeah, you can almost work offline if possible. And then you add service workers as a proxy so you can fetch more resources as needed, right? I'm pretty sure might be a way to configure React so that it doesn't do that, maybe, right? But if there isn't a way, then this is kind of you're going into a native model, like a native app. I download the app and then wait until it loads and then use it. And as this article says, if you click a button and then you waited more than 3 seconds to open the page, users will abandon the website. And I have to agree with that, right? So the key here is, if I click on a link, if I can afford to wait, like I'm playing a game and I understand that the game will take time to load, I might be okay with it. And if I get a great performance later. But if I'm reading an article and if it's someone tweeted something and there's an article, I click on that and it takes like 4 seconds to load, I'm gonna close. Personally, I'm not gonna wait. So it depends, again, this depends on the use case. So I agree with it like 50%, 60%. Yeah, it's different than the web used to, but we always try to improve things, right? And yeah, the site is still available technically as multiple resources. It's just the front-end app is written in a way so that it downloads everything and then consumes everything as a single page app so that you get this native experience, which is not bad. It's just, I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. It's just, again, back to the user experience. How do you personally feel, and what is the use case you're building exactly against? Is it the game, or is it just a blog? A blog? 5 seconds to open a blog? I might be exaggerating a little bit much. Can I open the blog page in fraction of a second, and as I scroll, load more information? That's great. The fifth point is made by these people. This is a political discussion. I'm not gonna go through it, to be honest, because it's your opinion. I mean, yeah, like Google is any better than Facebook, or I don't know. It's just, yeah, I'm not gonna go through this. I don't agree with this point. It's just, yeah, it has nothing to do. Facebook as an engineering company, I absolutely love what they are doing, right? It's just they are sharing their engineering resources. React is a great tool. It's a great technology. They made it for them, just like Kubernetes made by Google to solve Google problem. I feel this is how I relate to, right? So just like Google built Kubernetes to solve their scaling problems, because Google is Google, Facebook built React to solve certain problem with their client apps with React. We, as the users and developers, blindly, and I find this in the backend as well, blindly implement Kubernetes, blindly, just because it's hip and cool. That's the problem. React is the same thing. You do not need React all the time. Think about the problem and the use case. Do I absolutely need this thing? Ask yourself. Well, yeah, Hussein, I find that React solves all these problems for me, and I don't have time to rebuild all these components. So I'm going to reuse the great components. And I understand the expense of the reloading the resources, the expense of the React library, the expense of this, the expense of that. I'm willing to take these costs. على عيني وراسي. If you really, really, really know all that stuff, by all means, use it. Kubernetes is the same problem. I find a lot of people build kind of small apps from day one as microservices, and they complicate their architecture unnecessarily. Despite they can have, if they could have built this as a monolith, and they scale the monolith nicely, right? So it's a balance. Both in the back end we have the same problem. The front end, I think you guys have the same problem. So it's a balance. Ask the question, use case, and to me, that most important thing, how the heck does this technology work? And not a lot of engineers will agree with me on this one. People will say, I don't know. I don't need to know how the CPU does it work and is doing my computation. Okay, if you're willing to do that, then don't scream if your app is slow and you don't know why. You need to know. You need to know. As an engineer, this is your job. You need to know everything about your app, in and out. Or Five Guys. That wasn't funny. I thought it would be funny, but no. All right, guys. So again, guys, read this article. Take it with a grain of salt. Whether you're in React or you don't use frameworks, I think there is something to learn from this article and the comments. You have to read the comment section, guys. I don't want to read them because there are a lot of carnage and fighting there. But I think there is value. Always disassociate yourself from that. And my opinion about the whole thing is, personally, I have built front-end applications, but they are ugly. I agree with you. They are ugly because I use CSS, but it's not pretty CSS, so I'm learning that thing. But the one thing that I guarantee that my app gives is performance. That's because that's what I care about. Because I didn't build a website for an end user, and despite it being ugly, I then add a template to make it pretty. But my goal is to make it performant, load fast, search fast, which is my backend, my experience, how I can give you the most performance, and then the making it pretty is not something I am good at, to be honest. I know my limitation, right? I have self-awareness when it comes to this. So I would hire someone to make my app look good. Designer, design UX. These are good things that I just don't have time to learn, and I don't have the skills. How to make the design look good, how to make design, how make the apps look good, and all that stuff. But I will guarantee you that everything that my front-end app does, I know what it does. And I know how to optimize every single thing there. Yeah, it might look ugly. So guys, you're gonna laugh at me. Yesterday I built a quick application because I needed a front end at my work there. And to this day, I still, to build a table, do you know what I use? Here's what I did, right? I load the app. The moment I load the HTML page, the second I load the HTML page, I have a script tag that loads a script, the JavaScript, and then it makes a call to the backend, which fetches a JSON. And then I use this JSON to build a table. And how do I do that? It's literally document. I have a dev element, document get element by ID, get the dev ID, right? And then I create document.create element t table. Yes, I use tables. Sue me. I use tables and TD and TR to this day. And I'm going to use them until the browser tells me stop using them. I love them. They are predictable. TR, TD, 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 TR, TD, and that's it. I build a table. I didn't have to do anything. I just made a loop and then built the table. It was very quick. Obviously, I'm not going to load the whole thing because I know that it's going to paginate the whole thing. So I'm going to page it nicely. Load the next 1,000 rows or 100 rows. That's what I do. So I'm not going to use a library that does things when I know how to do it. And I don't really care how the front end looks because I can always make it better, right? The performance is what I care about. However, if I'm going to build a chart, I have no clue how to build a chart or pie chart. I mean, I have an idea of how can I can create like a div element, that I make it like a progress bar. I can do things like that tricky. If I don't want to use a library, and I can do something like that, but why not just use a library? I use Google Charts a lot to build like a CPU memory usage. I built like a monitoring app for internal use back in my I think 4 years ago. Like I was monitoring a cluster of machine. I want to know each cluster, each host, how much the CPU and memory. So I built a dashboard to just kind of read everything and then display this on a web dashboard. And I used it using Google Chart and then just JavaScript and HTML. That's it. So something like that, if I'm gonna need, then I'm gonna use a chart library, and then I rely on that chart library to do its work. Now, if there's a performance problem with that portion of the web part, then I'm gonna complain and I might decide to change it. But that I know what portion are fast and I know what portion I have control over. That's the idea of things. And that's my opinion, guys, obviously. If you want to use React, please go ahead and use it, obviously. And just my own personal opinion on things is just know how things really work, right? What is it going? Like in my example, the chart, I know exactly what they are doing with this. So they are rendering it on the back end and they're giving me the results, and then they're displaying as SFG. Essentially, that's what they are doing, right? So I'm aware that Google are taking my data with this, right? And they are running it on the server, and I was fine with that. So if you are aware of what is happening in your app, I think it will be okay. Otherwise, I don't have a problem using React or not using React. So because I think this technology is going to exist for a long time. Just like jQuery still exists, just like Dojo still exists, just like any other library framework still exists. Guys, I'm going to ask you the question, what do you think of this article? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to see you on the next one. You guys stay awesome. Goodbye.